Pre-market, huge gap. 5:51 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, just now hit 125, 2012. Beautiful gap. We are going to let this particular gap up to 52-week highs. Plus, it's going to be the richest company in the world today, I think, because of market capitalization and sales, and Mr. Cook delivered the quarter. Great. Now what we're going to do is once it gets up there to maybe like 7.25 delta, we're going to look at taking that short, because we know that last night in after hours that the stock hit about 469.95 or something like that, and then dropped down to the 450 area or something like that, 451. Now we're about $6-7 up, headed back up to lower highs from last night's pre-market on the original earnings announcement and how to trade it. Because we're here to make sure that you know that when this stock puts in that high on this opening bell, which is going to happen in a little over 30 minutes, is that you will, through the reversal stages, have 3 stages. And it's called the 3 stages of volatility. 7.25 delta is right up in that 460 area. 7.5, you start getting up there when it did last night on 1/24/2012 in the after hours free market. We had hit that spike very quickly because the majority of the crowd bought up at the highs, let's say between 464 and 469 and some change, because that's what they did. And then the stock dropped $18 off the high. And what I am saying right now, 35 minutes microphone. Here we are live again, and I'm sorry about that last little interruption in the live commentary. Apple is going to get up to that 7+ delta. If you clear 7.25, you would definitely look at what that next distance to 7.5 delta would be, but you would more so look and see if you get exhaustion right around on that upper end, is that 462, let's say 462.35 handle would be maybe and a possible peak in the upper end of that price reversal where it would happen. And it will happen in 32 minutes from now. And it is pre-market. Yes, you have the increased pre-market on balance volume volatility. And you're going to approach that area of 7.25, but nonetheless 7 deltas. And that equals that total price gap. Not only that, the previous 52-week high, that number relative to where the bid and the ask is how you wind that tape up $7 off of that low delta support level. So I will call on one MMT to give me where the lower delta support levels had held in after hours market, and where the current calculation from the bottom of that range to the current high right now approaching that 7.25 delta. 449.15. So what delta range was 449.15? So you had a 5.25 delta bounce. That's your after hours last night in pre-market. So you've had a $10 wind up already to this level. So it's very important, MMTs, that when we're looking at where that price delta was, so it was 8.75 on the high in pre-market, which was up there, at 569 and some change, and it came down to 5 and what, a quarter, someone said? So there's your increased volatility. But notice, MMTs, that the biggest part of the volatility is up there on how that reversal in price is taking place and will carry over. I got 6:02 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and you're approaching that. Remember, one thing that we learn when we're trading an earnings event is that if if you're watching this, this is your broader Nasdaq futures, and these Nasdaq futures were totally marked up because of Apple. But then when Apple makes its highs and goes down, you'll know that these will go down and that they were top end heavy. And what will have to happen in this market is that this 100 will have to continue to show its weaknesses. It will have to come back down and continue to break its lows. That's what the exchanges were doing the other day. Okay? And the thing about it is, on the gap, is that the Dow futures are down 53. Okay? In pre-market. The S&P is down 420 in pre-market. Okay? The Nasdaq futures are plus 17. Why? Because of the Apple gap. That's how they're marked to market. The CAC, the DAC, and the rest of the things are having their pullbacks because over the last day or so, couple of days, markets were getting exhausted on their highs. And the more higher that they go, the more exhausted in the very short term that they'll be, and you'll have these reversals that they had originally started. They come back into play. So relative to this update that we're coming up to that short area right now, we can deal with that, but we're going to peak in those areas, and we're going to see that everybody is going to be chasing the move. And as they chase that move and it makes that final intraday morning high, and sometimes they can make the high, but they would reverse and slide the half bar very quickly, and they would not get back above that. No. Once they slide, they do not get back above the previous half bar on a closing level. No. No. Pre-market update. Google will have MMTs doing business as normal. Once again, I'm going to give out some limit orders. I'm going to have some people making some money on ISRG today. I'm going to have a lot of things going on outside of this one. Okay? But this is where the delta ranges and the delta peaks are going to be in your MMT platform. And one thing I promise, beyond a reasonable doubt, that it will not be wrong. No, it will not. Because when you slide that bid, when you slide that half bar drops 3 teenies and it bounces back up a teeny and a half and starts to roll over. That's how they make those lower lows. But then again, they don't ever close back above the previous half bars. And you have to know where to establish those. And we will, as we are coming up. And you can see up here, what's happening, going up into those deltas from the low delta ranges in after hours market and pre-market. Welcome, MMT, to selling short the news. And for pullbacks, and we will find the areas in the lower delta. We do know where the numbers were in the 449 penny range. And so we know from the 449 level how we have walked that level up. But the closer we get to that opening bell, it's 6 minutes after the hour, people are, it's going to get tired in price. So, and then how to buy that support level and sell that rip again. But when you're selling out of that long off of support, you got to be shorting it. Hey, welcome to price action. and we're going to do our best today. Okay? And we're also going to be taking a look at price exhaustions, and we're going to do a lot of training around price exhaustion. And that's where reversals and sliding that half bar. When it does, though, it doesn't see it again. And then when they bounce up to the half bar resistance level and start to fail, yeah, they got to have a sell bar right away. And bam, would probably add to my short-term position and go for my 3 teeny reversals. And what is a 5 teeny pullback at support to go long going to look like in Apple? Because that's the bottom end of the trade management, is to short the exhaustion high and buy that lower support level and then sell into the middle to the public. Welcome to the opening bell and a great earnings report on Apple Computer.